recognize some of you from a previous session, so I'm glad you're here again. I was just saying I'm talking about kind of a behavioral topic at a technology event, and I hope that you are all like me and you're technology leaders, most specifically security leaders, that care very much about the teams you're building and how you're building them to provide the most business advantage, security outcomes in your particular area of the business. So today, talking about inclusive security, trying to talk really loud, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I know there's a few of you here, but can you raise your hand if you are a security leader in your organization? Are you leading a team today? I figure this is a yes. Yes, raise it loud and proud. So a little bit of background about me. I've been at AWS now for a little over 6.5 years. I do lead a security team for AWS. But prior to that, I've led security teams for the majority of my career, so more than 25 years. Proud to say, female in security for almost 30 years, which is incredible. So I care very deeply about building the best world-class team. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of diversity to unlock the potential in creating a more effective team environment. So today we're going to talk through some general areas of diversity, because if we talk about diversity at a really high level, we're not really diving deep into what that actually means. So I wanted to place some real-world examples of ways we think about creating a diverse team, and then exploring the dimensions within those areas, and then actually give you some actionable next steps. So how can you actually go back into the world after this amazing event, evaluate your own team environment, and start focusing on actionable next steps that you can take to make sure you have built a diverse team, that you're actually leveraging the benefits of that diversity. All right, so let's talk about some general areas of diversity, and I did get fun with some graphics to kind of tell the story along the way. But think about it in terms of the different demographic diversity areas like race, ethnicity, gender identity, age, sexual orientation, physical ability, disability. There's also other areas that we're going to explore. But think about it from the perspective of the attackers, the threat actors that are out there in the world, and how differently they think than maybe what we think as security leaders. And so from a global perspective, from a regional perspective, it's about bringing diversity of thought in so that you can make higher velocity decisions as leaders, you can see patterns in a more recognizable way, and you can be more effective as a team. I do know that there's a rise as far as cyber criminals. Did you know that over 30% of them are female today? Like, this is an interesting idea. Like, how do you think about preventing threats in your incident response program or other security teams if your team all looks the same and thinks the same, right? We've got to bring diversity of thought and lived experience in so that we can be more effective. There's also differences in work experience. And so when I was preparing for this talk, I actually did some interviewing of some of our internal teams that focus specifically on incident response. And I'm like, how do you think about your hiring tactics? Like, do you always look for a certain technical capability? And the answer was no. Like, our AWS incident response team, our customer incident response team, is a peer organization to me. And I interviewed them, and like, some of them have law enforcement backgrounds, for example. Like, some of them are data scientists. Like, you've got to be able to bring in diversity of skill set to actually build a robust team that doesn't think the same. So other ways that maybe you haven't thought of, but I definitely see this, this is very big on here, by the way. But think about other types of diversity, like cognitive diversity. I actually attended my very first hiring event focused on neurodiversity, which I'm so excited about. Think about the way that people think differently, how they see patterns, how they recognize patterns as a strength. Some may say superpower, but thinking about things like the percentage of American adults or adults worldwide that do have ADHD or dyslexia, some of the other categorizations that may be neurodiverse versus neurotypical. And it's been such an eye-opening experience for me personally to recognize how the difference in the way individuals think and how I as a leader can adjust some of my own leadership style to accommodate and make the environment a much more inclusive and diverse environment to leverage those skills as strengths on my team, not think of those as anyone with a disability, because it's not what it is, right? We, as people, leaders, disable people if we don't create an inclusive and diverse environment. And so that's a different way of thinking. Also thinking about educational background, professional experience, thinking styles, problem-solving approaches. And so, like I said, leaders create the inclusive environment, need to be educated on how to leverage those strengths. And I'm sharing quite vulnerably my own personal experience. And I think one of the top things that we have to do as leaders is recognize where we need to learn ourselves, right? If someone is thinking differently than we are, how do we learn to make the right adjustments to leverage those skills and abilities to take advantage of that skill? Okay, so a security team that values diversity in thoughts and ideas leading to innovation. And what I really like about this too is think about if you have everyone on your team that has similar lived experiences, similar preferred method of communication, similar background, right? How many new ideas are going to come to the table, right? And I will say, one of the things that I do love about our Amazon leadership principles, we have a leadership principle called Our Right a Lot. And some people think that means, as a leader, I need to be right a lot. And that's not what it means. It means, how do you get to right? How do you get to having the right answer? How do you know if it's right? And so when I think about testing your idea, getting diverse feedback, having people look at it that have different lived experiences than you or different technical backgrounds, it's the way you get to what's right. Right? So think about the role of diversity in that. How do you know you're making the right decision? How do you know you're solving problems as fast as you can solve them if you're not looking at the issue or the pattern from a diverse perspective? And so experiences increase velocity in problem solving. I saw this as it related to velocity. How fast are you actually resolving incidents? Because if your team culture is centered around diversity and communication and how you work together as a team, you're already primed to solve problems very quickly together. So when an incident happens and things have to happen very quickly, the team is already inclusive of that communication style. It also decreases workplace stress, which I actually really love, because you want to make sure that people that have diversity in thought, they think differently than you, they have the safety that it takes to come to you and disagree with you or share a different perspective with you. And they have to feel comfortable showing up as who they are, right? And so celebrating different aspects of diversity, celebrating the fact that this person has a different lived experience than you, they have a different background, but their voice is welcome. That leads to better overall employee experience and decreased workplace stress, increasing employee satisfaction overall. Like, it makes the team a really welcome place to work, and those high performers on the team are going to want to stay because they feel welcome. They feel valued because of their diversity. So here's some actionable next steps. Now, first of all, I didn't put this on the slide, but I would say, if you're not sure how you're doing as far as this is related, you have to take the action to educate yourself. Especially in some of the areas like neurodiversity that I mentioned earlier. I'm personally learning a lot. I'm learning to be the best leader that I can be to the neurodiverse employees on my team. I'm looking at ways that I can leverage the power that comes with the different way of thinking and leveraging that in the right way on my team. So it starts with education like everything else. But also recruiting channels. If you're always recruiting from the same prior experience, if you're always recruiting through the same source, you're always going to get the same candidates. And I know specifically, like looking at the male versus female percentage on my team, we did a deep dive and read the job descriptions. And you know that a female candidate may not apply unless they meet 100% of the qualifications, where a male may say, oh, I meet most of these, I'm going to apply. So you have to make it a welcome environment and really look at those job descriptions and how you're actually targeting that skill set. Partnering with diverse professional organizations and universities is a great idea. Like I mentioned, I attended my very first neurodiverse hiring event, and it was about college graduates in cybersecurity identifying as neurodiverse, like looking for career opportunities. Like, this is the big change as far as what I've seen in my personal experience, and I'm celebrating it. I think if someone is brave enough to say, I'm a part of the neurodiverse community, here's how I want to communicate, here's what works for me, here's the value that I can add, I as a leader want to welcome that. Again, focusing on varied skill sets and backgrounds. So establishing inclusive development programs, creating a mentorship opportunity for the underrepresented team members. I know in the Amazon environment we have amazing groups that you can belong to, so hopefully your organization has similar. You can be an ally, celebrate those areas of diversity, and implement some cross-training programs to share the knowledge. Like I mentioned, really diving into neurodiversity on my team personally, having some training with all the leaders in my organization so that we understand some key differentiating ways that we can make sure. I'll give you an example. If you have an individual that has dyslexia on your team and you're going to start off a meeting by reading a document, that's what we do at Amazon. Maybe it'd be a better idea to give them the heads up and give them the document at least 10 minutes earlier, giving them time, or possibly it's thinking about what font is that document in. Like I said earlier, we as leaders or society in general, we are the ones that disable people from doing the things they need to do, right? It's not the other way around. And so we've got to think about how we're creating a welcoming environment and celebrating diversity. So incorporating inclusion into your team culture, develop clear communication protocols. The other thing that I think about as a leader is not everyone on the call or the team meeting feels comfortable sharing by raising their hand and coming on camera. Like, the best ideas might come from a Slack channel or a way that they can type, or maybe having a one-on-one conversation. It doesn't mean that that person adds less value to the overall initiative. It just means that their preferred communication style may be different than yours. And you've got to celebrate and bring that diversity in. Ensure equal access to tools and resources. Like I said, the things that we do, the tools that we use, are they going to be advantageous for people with dyslexia? If the individual on your team has ADHD, how can you possibly change? Maybe you send an agenda before the meeting. That adds a layer of comfort and brings them in to be a part of that meeting. It makes them feel valued when you as a leader are responding to what you know that they need. And then giving all team members opportunity to lead projects. Again, this is about celebrating whether they're early in career, late in career, different skill sets, different nationalities, different lived experiences, all getting equal opportunity. All right, I think I'm going to end a little bit early. I hope that this was beneficial to you and you think about how you are looking at your team, looking at the diversity, both from a skill set, age orientation, neurodiversity, all of those things important in your security teams. I wanted to mention also that we have the Culture of Security Lounge, which is behind me. And part of this topic and this track is all along the lines of culture of security. So yesterday I talked about psychological safety, today talking about diversity. We have so many of these behavioral style talks and education that we've been trying to give this year at Inforce. Again, taking the eye off the technology just a little bit and focusing on the people. But if you want to head over to our AWS Culture of Security, I'll be there to answer any questions and would love to